can see here, I am not in Florida. I am in Pennsylvania. Some of you have been with the program for a while. Probably recognize this background as being my dad's place here in Renfrew, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, you can look that up. And as many of you know, my dad was with me down in Florida for a month. And I would say probably that I bored him to death because all I do is work. And he decided he wanted to come back to Pennsylvania. So we hopped in the car early yesterday morning. We left about 7 a.m. We ran into a half-hour traffic jam in Tampa. We ran into about a 45-minute detour on the 75 or 275 in Florida, which made our trip, instead of about 16 hours and 45 minutes, it ended up being about 18 hours and 20 minutes. And I drove all of it straight through. We got here at about 20 after 1 last night, or the 21 this morning, 20 after 1 this morning. And I went to bed and got up and got right to work. And what you are seeing here is probably more of my natural state of the way I am when you don't see me on camera. Got a little shave. I think I'll have to shave before I fly back to Florida tomorrow. Maybe, maybe not. But really, I just got up and started doing work today because I had a lot to do. And so that's what you're seeing. You're seeing my more natural state in contrast to before I do this program and before I do the think tank on Sunday nights. I always make sure to jump in the shower and shave and everything. And I just did not have the time today because, frankly, I was on the phone with a probable future guest of the program until about 10 till 9. So from there, I got the computer ready, and now you see me right here. So who's in here? Hello, Carrie, and Fishing, and Laura, and Concha, and Susan. Hello, Cherie, Kathy, Twinkle. Who is that, and where is Ed? Good question, Twinkle. Shelly. Hello, Heather. Anne, Michelle, Alexandra. Full Metal, hair looking good. Thank you. I'm not going to be getting it cut, Full Metal, but I think it needs to be brought under control again. So I'm going to be looking into that once I get back to Florida. Hello, Derek, Kristen, Miranda, LaFord, and Laura. Thank you. Who cares about hairstyles? Well, some people do. So if you're wondering why I look a little different than I usually do, it's for all of those reasons. But I wanted to do this program, this show tonight. And tomorrow, my flight leaves at 1 o'clock from Pittsburgh. And I will be landing in Tampa around 3:30. And then I will be using Lyft for the very first time in my life to get a ride back to my place in Clearwater Beach. So that will be my day tomorrow. And then tomorrow when I get home, I have to record the entirety of Friday's episode. And then I have to do an interview tomorrow night. So I got a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff. What about a man bun? No man buns, Twinkle. No man bun 8 happening. Thank you, LaFord. Thank you for speaking for me. So that's what's been going on with me the last couple days. Dad and I had a nice drive otherwise. Very nice weather. It is chilly here in Pennsylvania. And some of you remember because of my mother's death last year, or 2018, I spent a large majority of the winter in Pennsylvania I was here from the middle of November till the end of January. And so I am getting out of here as quickly as possible. That's a short visit. It is, Sharon. It is. It's not really a visit. I drove him home because his vehicle was there, and at his age, I don't know about him driving all that way. So I had come up here a month ago, driven him down. He had his vehicle down there, and now he's back. So there you go. Be careful getting in with strangers. Yeah, I will. I will try to remember that. Eb, thank you for pointing that out regarding Lyft. Thank you. Hello, Jill. What's going on? So that's why you see this background back there is because I am in Pennsylvania. It did snow here today, although I don't think it's stuck. But this room that I'm sitting in is the room I work in and sleep in when I'm here. When I was here last winter, when I was here back in September, before I went to Canada, this is the room that is my room when I'm here. And this is where I'm doing this show tonight. So let's get so this is why you're seeing this. But like I said, tomorrow afternoon I will be back in Florida. I can't wait to get back to Florida. And then Friday I am driving to Estero, Florida. I'm going to be taking part in another disc golf tournament this coming weekend in South Florida. Carrie says we were supposed to get snow this weekend. Sorry to hear that, Carrie. Sorry to hear that. I hope everybody had a great New Year's. I hope nobody has broken their New Year's resolutions yet. So far, it's been a good year. I didn't expect to bring my dad back to Pennsylvania so quickly, but if that's what he wants to do, that's what he wants to do. I want to take. I have to remember. I don't have a big desk here, so I have to look down here to my other computer here to see my notes. I think what I want to do first is um, talk a few updates. Let me see what we're supposed to get. We're expecting tornadoes this weekend, Michelle says. Carrie, no, you're not, but that's okay. Yeah. All right. Let me give you some updates. Let me hold on 1 second. I'm going to move this computer up here so I don't have to keep looking down there. Maybe some of you saw this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. We got confirmation on January 2nd that the remains found in Concord, North Carolina, are Crystal Morrison's. For sure. There is no doubt about that now. I've not had a chance to talk to her sister Michelle, since this happened last Thursday, but I'm sure I will get to talk to her. I continue to say, and I think I've been saying this since this all came out a few weeks ago, is that I still continue to have a lot of questions about how she ended up where her remains were found. I hope that we can eventually understand what happened and try to figure out if this could apply to any other disappearances Unfound is covered that happened under the same circumstances, kind of. Of course, every disappearance is different, but I'm sure all of you even see those similarities, even if it's a different state, different city, different year, even different decade or different century. Um, I think there are a lot of similarities, probably between Crystal's disappearance and others. And maybe we need to go back and look at some of those other disappearances to determine, could it be these people walked off too and just haven't been found? Because I continue to say, and, I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong. This is one of those ones I got wrong. It seems, if we're to believe that something happened to her all on her own, she had some sort of mental breakdown or obviously physical issue of some type, then obviously I got this one wrong. And I will try to keep that in mind, as we move forward, covering other cases. But hopefully they'll be able to determine, the tough part is going to be, I would guess that she was out, her remains were out in those woods for a while. So I'm hoping, it may be tough to figure out a cause of death. I hope we don't get into another Tom Brown situation. I'm really hoping that that is not the case. So when I talk to Michelle, and if I think that I can say anything from that conversation, I'll let you know. Um, but I am surely interested. I feel horrible, of course, for Michelle's family, for I guess Crystal's family, and but I think that there, in all of this, there has to be some learning as well. And I think that Michelle understands that. I think that she and I have gotten along very, very well since she was on the program. And I think that she will understand that when I start asking some of these things, it's not because I'm nebby, it's because I'm trying to add whatever she tells to me to, you know, this encyclopedia that I'm trying to put together in my head regarding disappearances and what I can learn, you know, if I can learn more about them. It is, I look back now at Crystal's case, it's obvious to me that me personally, I underestimated how sick she was. I thought that she was just making it up. But I'm getting the feeling that they are going to put the blame of this disappearance and her death on some physical issue, ailment that she was having that day. Whereas I kind of put that to the side. That was a mistake on my part. All right. And hopefully I will learn my lesson for next time. Carrie says, at least they know where she is now. Carrie, that's certainly true. That's, it's better than a lot of other people. More, moving it. They can, now there's no more, that part of the mystery is over. Once again, though, I hope that they can attach a firm cause of death to this, whether it was an ailment or suicide or murder. But it seems to me at this point that the direction is going some type of attack, possibly an asthma attack that she might have had that caused this. And as a guy who's had a couple asthma attacks in his life, they are scary, and we all know that asthma can kill. Um, Carrie says that has got to be a little comforting. Comforting. It's, as you know, Carrie, as well as anyone, it's bittersweet. Finding these remains for all of these people, from Melinda Campos to Penny Meek to Crystal Morrison's family to Devin Bond's family. It's as bittersweet as anything in life can be. Um, I hope they can, Derek. Sky, I have a question on Tammy Arthur Cartel video when there's a moment. Sky, you just write your question and I will try to answer it as quickly as I can. Just write it down and I'll get to it. And Sheree will make sure that I get to it. Twinkle says, I had a friend who died from an asthma attack. Now, I believe it. I don't doubt that at all. In fact, there was somebody. Man, I'm gonna have to think of this. Somebody within the Unfound family had a family member who died of an asthma attack in the shower. Unfortunately, off the top of my head, I can't remember who that was. But yeah, right. Carrie, was that you? I'm not here to jump in. Yeah, there you go. Your niece, right? Right, Carrie. Okay, you're right now. Right. I was thinking, man, it seems like somebody. Right now that that was my niece. Okay, Carrie. Right. It was just hit me. Okay. Yeah, asthma, very dangerous. So I will give you any more updates that I can on the case, but I think that any update that I'm going to give you from now on will only happen once I've talked to Michelle. I can't really say anything at this point, but you can expect some Austin Pivo news to be coming out probably within the next few weeks. Of course, we've been talking about that. Remains were found on the Fort Hall Reservation in Idaho. That's a disappearance we covered last year. And there's still some waiting going on, but I'm getting a feeling that we'll be able to talk about that disappearance a little bit more. I'm going to guess within the next few weeks. But that's all I really can say about it right at this time. Uh, Dennis Bowman, of course, of the Andrea Bowman disappearance, her adoptive father. There's an extradition hearing today in Michigan about him, I guess, being transferred to Virginia to answer for the murder that he's been charged with there from 1980. Unfortunately, with me being so busy and having to do a lot of things today because I got no Unfound work done yesterday, I was not able to. I don't know what happened in the extradition hearing. I don't even know if they came to a decision on that. I'm going to guess that he's going to get extradited. I I can't see Michigan getting in the way of that or anything. So I'm fully expecting that he's going to be extradited back to Virginia to answer for that crime. But that was happening today. Let me see what kind of questions I got during let me see. Hold on just a moment. Working under different conditions today. Okay. Let me see what kind of questions. I want to make sure everybody's okay. Kim asked me. Kim, who is a think tank member. Are any of you think tank members out there? You should be. Kim is a very new one. And if you don't know what the think tank is, if you're watching this video for the first time, on Sunday evenings we get together at 7 o'clock on a private link on YouTube, right here, but privately, not like this public forum. And a small group of us talk about the case from the preceding Friday. We even did a think tank for this past Friday's program, even though we didn't actually cover a disappearance. We still talked about the missing persons community. The think tank is the only thing of its kind in the world where a program is put out there like we do it Unfound, and then a few days later, a select group of people, myself, some of my assistants, and some listeners who are Patreon supporters at the $12 a month level or higher, we all get together. We talk about the case from the past Friday. We talk about theories. We talk about new avenues of inquiry. We talk about missing persons theory. How can we apply what we can learn from that particular disappearance to other disappearances that have been unfound, maybe even ones that haven't been unfound, But I hope that you will certainly consider that in the year 2020. Once again, to join, you have to go to patreon.com/unfound podcast and contribute at the $12 a month level or above. That will get you into Think Tank, but it also gets you some free ebooks, courtesy of me, with me signing them by typing special messages inside them. You also, of course, get access to all of the blogs that I've written regarding all of the cases that Unfound is covered going back to August of 2017. So if you're signing up for Patreon for the first time now, you're going to be getting books, which of course are going to be some great reading, and you're going to have a ton of blogs to read regarding my inner thoughts and theories and feelings about the cases that I've covered since August of 2017. Things I do not say on the programs on themselves because I don't get into my own theories and those things during the episodes. But I do write about that at Patreon. And every blog entry, I'd say the average entry is about 3,000 words. So you figure you're going to get in there, you're going to get 2.5 years of blog entries to read. It's going to keep you busy for a little while. You're going to get your books, your ebooks, at least 3 free ebooks, and you're going to get access to the think tank every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern, where we do that live for $12 a month. That's not bad. That's a pretty good deal, especially if you are into missing persons cases and really into true crime. I think you're going to be able to learn a lot. I think you're going to enjoy it. I think you're going to contribute yourself. It's not just something where people sit back and watch and listen. You get to contribute it as well. It's the only place in the world, no other podcast does that. We just do it here. So I hope you will consider that. So having said all that, and looking at Kim's question here, she wants some tips on how we newbie sleuths can start your own investigations. And you've heard me talk about this. I'm a very passionate believer in this because with all of the tools that are now at everybody's fingertips right on this computer, you can do a lot. There might be a little bit of a learning curve. You can do a lot. You can. Let me just, before I get into that, join Think Tank. Carrie says you won't be sorry. Think Tank rules. I love the Think Tank. Now I can access the comment. Trying to figure out the problem. It's probably because you have got to figure that out with your iPhone, probably, Kathy. That is an issue. No, I have an Android phone. That's weird. Maybe we can figure that out for her, Cherie. Kathy, I have an Android phone. Might help to know, Kathy, if we knew what kind of Android phone you have, how what operating program you have on there. That might help. Cherie, thank you for writing that. Heather, I've had that problem with my iPhone, but found a workaround. Message me and we can figure yours out. Yes, Kathy. I think there are some other people that had similar issues, Kathy, but were able to figure them out. So as Heather said, maybe you can all get together and figure that out. You know, me personally, I've not had any issues with my phone, so I just don't know. Michelle asked their question above. Yeah, let's answer that, and then I will get to Kim's question. I don't want to forget Sky. Thank you. Is that Tammy at the end saying something like, I'm not a criminal? The recording is the recording, Sky. I don't know. You know, I have to admit, having listened to that recording many times, Sky, that I did not hear that. I can't say that that rings a bell. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go to that video and I'm going to listen to it myself right here for a second and see if I can do something. Like I said, I've listened to that many times. And, you know, the tough thing about that is the way our brains work is many times our brain can hear things that aren't said. You know, it's no different than if we're listening to a language that we don't understand, but it'll sound like somewhere in there once in a while you will hear words that sound like English words, but they're not. So let's listen to this. I have to turn the. You know, I good morning. Hmm. It's hard to do this without it echoing. You know, Sky. Okay, let me turn this back off now. See, the only way I can listen to it is turn the muting off. You know, Sky, it's that's I don't know what's being said, But yeah, thanks at the end. I can hear what you're saying. It doesn't sound like that to me. I don't know exactly what she's saying. Maybe if I had headphones on, I'd be able to concentrate on it a little bit more. But I don't think that's what she's saying. I can see why you think that she's saying that. I don't think that's what she's saying though. But everybody else has access to the recording on the YouTube channel. Maybe some of you can go and listen to it right now while the show's happening, and you can get back to Sky about that. Um, mm, Derek, you're asking kind of the same question that Kim asked me, and so I'm going to answer that right now. Here's the tough thing is going to be, if you're a real newbie to disappearances and the true crime community and all of that, then it's probably going to be a little difficult for me to explain how those types of people can get involved. If you are a person who is just discovering the true crime community the first time, say you didn't know about podcasting, say that you just started watching the ID channel, just a few months ago, and let's just think of it as, being in the first grade of true crime, then it's probably going to be a little difficult. I would say to those people that you probably need to listen to a lot of Unfound episodes. You're probably going to have to watch maybe some disappeared episodes and things like that to really get a good firm handle on what is actually going on there out there that most people don't know about. I think that starts that good foundation about understanding what happens in disappearances, the mistakes that are made, what the families do, what they don't do, what they get right, what they don't get right, what the police do, what they get right, what they don't get right. I think that certainly anybody that's going to start their own investigation, that's where it needs to start. A good general understanding of what happens in missing persons cases. All right? I think that if people were to get into it without knowing that, they're going to really be spinning their wheels. They're not going to realize when they're going down the wrong track because they don't have enough experience. Okay? My opinion. So if somebody's thinking about becoming their own amateur sleuth, I think that they must first start educating themselves. Once again, listening to Unfound's episodes, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them, finding the disappeared episodes, and maybe watching some true crime documentaries like that. Twinkle says, "Gotta steep yourself in it." That is certainly true, Twinkle. That's true. That will make everything that happens later easier. Okay. Um. Kathy says I'm an old drug. Okay, regarding your phone. Okay. Um. So Katie's wondering too. Katie, thank you. Katie is also a think tank member, and Sky, thank you for the kind words. So after that, okay, I think that you have to pick out a case that you have listened to all of them. That's great. Okay. Thank you, Sky. The next step is I think that you need to find a case that piques your interest. Okay? I would of course suggest a case that hasn't gotten a lot of attention. Okay? That's what I would suggest. I would stay away from Mar Murray, Jennifer Cassie, Brian Schaefer, and all of those. There's already tons of people that have taken an interest in it, and they're working on those, trying to figure out what happened. I would suggest to you, you find one that, has not been covered on Unfound. Not that some of these families don't need help. All I'm saying is probably a good choice for you, and probably where your help is going to be respected the most are those kinds of disappearances where nothing has been done. You know, it seems like the case has been cold for a long time. Okay? What you then do is you just try to learn as much about it as possible, anything that you can find on the internet. Anything. See if there is something on websleuths.com. Look at the write up on the Charlie Project. Look at the NamUs site. See if there's a Facebook page set up for that disappearance. Try to find any news articles that might have been written at the time that the disappearance happened. Because generally, in a lot of these disappearances, there were articles that were written at the time. The problem is, most of the time, no articles are written after that. But it is in those original articles that you will find people's names, the mother, the father, a brother, sister that did an interview with uh, the writer of the story. I can tell you from our experience, my experience, Emily, Cherie's, Carrie's, Heather's, everybody else's, is that we definitely use news articles to find people to contact. And then we use databases, some are free, some aren't so free, that we use to then find these people's emails, phone numbers. Okay? And to me, where you go from there is if you can get an email address or you find their Facebook page, you contact them and you just be as honest as possible. You know, you don't call a person on the phone because that's a little weird. And these days, people don't pick up if they don't know the phone number anyway. But if you can email them, you just tell them all about you, how you found out about the case, why it interests you, why you want to work on it, and you just tell them that. And you just leave yourself, just be as forthcoming as possible. And hopefully you'll get a response. It may be you don't get a response, and you may get blown off, and you may have to move on to some other disappearance. But I believe that is the way to start. Then, once you get a family member to respond, somebody who you believe that you can trust, who seems to know a lot about the case, has done interviews with reporters before, and then you can start a dialogue. They're going to probably be leery of you. Makes total sense. Don't blame them for that. That makes sense. Of course, you have to remember a lot of these people have been scammed before, and they get a lot of kooks out there. But once you earn their trust by being very honest, and you can have starting a dialogue, maybe you get to finally talk to them on the phone. You start taking notes on the conversation. Everything that they can tell you about the disappearance, what they remember, any other people who were involved, suspects, witnesses, the last person, the missing person, all, you know, you start accumulating all of this information. You're not judging it, you're just pulling it in anywhere you can get it. Even if you think some of it might not be true, you will have an opportunity to check the veracity of some of this information somewhere down the road. Okay? So once you get to the point where you think you've collected enough information from the family and you've earned their trust, they're being forthcoming with you. You then look at all of your information and you kind of put it in an organized form that makes sense to you. Whether it's in a timeline form, or you have phone records over here, video records if they exist, statements and all these things. Whatever way is best for you to organize information in your head, and then also to visualize it in front of you. Okay? Whether it's using your computer or actually writing everything out by hand and putting it on a kitchen table. And what you start to do is using what you've learned from all of these other cases that you know about, whether it's been covered on Unfound, on Disappeared, some other podcast, everything that you think you've learned from all of these different programs, You then apply it to the information that you have in front of you. And the first question you should be asking yourself is, what information is missing? Now, of course, the main part is, where is the person? All right. That's not something that, obviously, that's a concern. That's the biggest concern. But what I mean is, among the information that you collected, what seems to be missing that should be here? Okay? That's the thing that you should be looking for. For example, I will use the example from this past year with Cameron Remmer's case, being that it's already been an episode. What became obvious to me after talking to Valerie, talking to one of Cameron's friends, the guy who assembled all of the phone records, after giving the information to my assistants to look at, Eric Grabowski took a long list of the phone records and everything else. It occurred to me in looking at it, the thing that was missing is we heard all about how Cameron got kicked out, but we didn't know the names of the security people who actually did that. To me, and any notes that anybody had, I had the name of the guy who was the head of security at the time. Of course, I ended up finding Chris Handasides, who was working there at the time. But I didn't have the names of the guy or women, men or women or whoever, who actually escorted Cameron out of the hotel the night he got kicked out of the Fairmont. To me, that seemed like a fairly large piece of information, a big missing piece in that puzzle. And guess what? I was right. How do I know I was right? Because one of the guys that we tried to contact blocked me and then tried to convince Valerie that I'm a kook. It's funny how those things work. And so when you do you should be looking for that type of information. What is something that should be in your information that isn't? And so then what you do is, I think I have a little bit of an advantage in this because I've written novels. All right, so I've had the opportunity, and you have to do this, in my opinion. When you write a novel, you have to plan it out. Scene by scene by scene, all the characters, what they're going to say. You have to put an outline together. And that's why I use outlines for interviews. But then you figure out, okay, this is the information that is missing. Whatever it is, whether it's one piece of information or 10 pieces of information. You try to logically figure out how I am going to find this information. And you just get a step-by-step process. What are the ways that I can go about to get this piece of information? And you start to plug in those holes. Now, I'm not going to say you're automatically going to solve a disappearance due to this. But you will certainly be working harder on it than any other single person in the world, all 7 or 8 billion of us. And you will surely eventually, even though it'll probably take time, you will eventually move that missing person's case forward. Okay? Because as I continue to say with Cameron Remmer's case, I did nothing special. Okay? There's nothing in my makeup from head to toe or anything that I was able to access or anything else that made it that I was able to do it and other people weren't. Millions of other people could have done what I did with Cameron Remmer's case. All these other millions of people, they have access to the same information that I did. It's just I took the time to do that, of course, with help from many people who assisted. But there was nothing. It was unique that I did it, but I wouldn't say that I had any special talents or anything. It was experience, but it wasn't like I was accessing some secret database, or anything like that. And I think that's the way all of you need to look at it. So that's the way I would go about it. Find a case that you feel that you can live with for a long time, because you're going to be living with it. Get to know the people who know that case, usually family members. They can tell you everything about the missing person, everything that was going on in their lives. Start collecting information, and then you figure out what information should be in there that isn't. And you go about finding that information. Okay, now it may take a while for you to figure out what information is missing. Sometimes it is not obvious, and you're just going to have to think about it for a while. But that's how I would go about it. Of course, Carrie's saying about FOIAs. FOIAs are helpful, just depends. I think it's something that's worth doing, but I would not make that the full. That's just one piece of information that you're going to be collecting with everything else. You also have to remember that at any point the police can say we're not giving you any information, especially if they can start considering an ongoing investigation, even though there's no investigating going on. So I think that probably learning about FOIAs and how to file for them is helpful, but I would not get too hopeful that when you get that paperwork that it's going to be a mind blower, vast event, encyclopedia of information on a disappearance. I think a lot of times, I think people maybe are a little let down what they get from FOIAs. So there you go. Michelle is saying expect to find conflicting information. Totally true. A lot of conflicting information, and you have to figure out is one piece of information true, the other one false, or are they both false? You can't forget that. Most people think when they see a bunch of conflicting information, well, something in here must be true. That's not what that means. That's not what it means. It could be that none of it's true. That's your job to figure it out. If we find out something about a case that we think will help, how do we contact the family? Purchase Family Twinkle. I would think that if you're working on a case, you should probably contact the family first. Because you don't know what they know. They surely know more than you do. You may already be getting information that they already know. The only way to find out what they know is to talk to them. Derek says, I'm very intrigued about the one case in Augusta. 2 twin girls, Dan Milbooks were missing. I emailed their assistant, told them I would love to help in any way. Let me know, but no response back. That's very typical, Derek. Very typical. That's not unusual. We get blown off all the time. Just got to keep working on it. Kathy says, when you learn about a lot about disappearances, you learn what is probably accurate online and what is not. Lots of conflicting info. True. As Cherie says, don't give up, Derek. James, hey Ed, and what's going on, James? Carrie says, don't wear blinders. You have to look at the whole picture. Right. You have to go in with no preconceived notions. All right. Don't go in, I'm sure this is a murder. Or I'm sure this person allowed it. Just go in, just collect the information. Just collect it. Have to catch up the rest of the okay. Coming in, night all. Alright, call coming. Alright, Carrie, take it easy. The sister has a Facebook page. Should I try to message her on Facebook? Yes, Derek. That's off. That's what I would suggest. I know that Kim asked that question, and some of you are also asking that same question. Getting involved in 2020. That is how you get involved. All right, that's how you get involved. Because it's interesting we're talking about this because this was part of a major part of the discussion we had in the think tank on Sunday night. Why is it that, for example, Project Jason doesn't exist anymore? As much as all of us loved it, great website, everybody loves Kelly, she shut it down in 2017. And I've not talked to her since. I've not talked to her since it shut down. Why does that happen? I don't personally know why uh, it shut down. I haven't talked to her. I can guess it's because Kelly wasn't meeting her expectations. You know, of course, doing what she was doing takes a lot of work, a lot of time, but I'm inclined to believe that if she was raising a lot of money and getting new people involved and moving cases forward and doing every goal that she set, she wouldn't have shut it down. You know, the problem that I'm going to say this, and this is somewhat controversial, is that the big reason that the missing persons community, you know, despite having millions of people who have suffered great losses, the reason that it has problems getting people involved and keeping them involved, that it can't raise money, uh, despite having all of these people in pain, it can't raise money like St. Jude's Hospital, for example, another organization that is a nonprofit organization. Of course, they have a lot of people in pain. They have they have a golf tournament, a huge golf tournament, everything else. What is the issue with the missing persons community? I think the issue is we just don't have enough results. I think that's the problem. I think the public that is somewhat clueless or agnostic or whatever the word you want to say about missing persons cases, you aren't going we are not going to be able to get their attention by just saying we print flyers, we put out rewards, we counsel these people and everything. People want to know about results. People want to hear about cases that are solved by people other than the police. Okay? That's what is going to move all of this forward. That is why I've said from day one, even though a lot of you weren't here for day one of Unfound, the reason this podcast exists is to solve cases. That's the only thing that matters. It's the only thing that matters. And because that is what is going to get the public's attention. Nothing else does. Okay? And there just haven't been enough success stories. I realize what Maureen said last Friday about all these children. That's awesome, spectacular. But the missing persons community as a whole has to learn how to solve adult missing persons cases because those are the tough ones. Why? Because you have to figure out if an adult walked off or not, or was murdered or not, or committed suicide or not. Whereas with children, we all know children are kidnapped. Now, we may not know who. It's either their parents or somebody else. Usually parents. Parents. Whereas with adults, it's almost an endless array of what could have happened. And we have to prove that we are as good at solving missing persons cases as St. Jude's is for curing children's cancer. That's what we have to do. We have to prove that we're just as good as the ASPCA with the shivering dog commercials that I see on late night TV. We have to prove we're as good as they are at getting dogs and cats off the street and into people's homes where they can be loved for the rest of their lives. We have to prove that. If we can't, then the missing persons community and all these nonprofit organizations and everything else, they will continue to stay what they are. Because the fact is, it's a very competitive atmosphere. And that dollar that goes to St. Jude's Hospital can't go to the missing persons community. It is a zero-sum game. Somebody gets money, somebody doesn't get money. Somebody gets more volunteers, somebody else doesn't get volunteers. and our message just isn't strong enough. The reason is that we need to learn better how to move these cases forward. That's what will catch people's attention. Michelle, I think we says I don't think we can get enough results because the general public doesn't want to hear about it. Taboo subject to them. I don't. Michelle, my opinion is this: people love success stories in anything. You know, I look at it from maybe United States. We are not a soccer country. Okay, we don't care about soccer. Soccer is like the what is it, 10th most popular sport in the United States or something. But baseball, basketball, football, car racing, golf, tennis, track and field, and then there's soccer. We know the men's soccer team isn't very good. The women's soccer team, of course, is very good, but that's exactly my point. We may not be into soccer, but when the United States women's soccer team does well, everybody wants to be involved. They win. People want to be associated with winners, no matter what it is. They want to be associated with winners. In the missing persons community, that means solving cases. So it's a taboo subject because there aren't enough success stories to talk about. That's my opinion. Sky, I went and listened again. It's after the message. Yeah, okay. Um, yeah, Sky, I just don't hear it that way. But I could be wrong. Kathy, there are also so many disappearances. Kathy, you just have to attack them one at a time. You know what else? There's a lot of kids with health problems, but somehow we're working at it. Somehow. Unfortunately, not all children are going to be able to be cured. That sucks. But they're getting better at it. I'm not so sure we're getting better at it in the missing persons community. So, yeah, it's every. The reason we're talking about this is because it's a problem. The reason it's a problem is because there's so many of them. If there weren't any disappearances, we wouldn't be talking about it. So, have to feed the dopamine rush. People want a reward. Twinkle, I'm not encouraged to believe that. I just don't believe that. There are too many people who have gotten into the missing persons community by choice with no open money to believe that we have to entice people with money to get involved. Now, it would be nice, but my attitude has always been, even with Unfound, when something that is weird to me are people who start podcasts and from day one, they start Patreon accounts. It's like they are entitled to get money and raise money and people to contribute just because they decided to get a computer and a microphone. Me, I didn't start my Patreon account until I was about a year and a half into this program. Why? Because people should not, no people should ask for money if you can't show that you're good at what you do. So, you know, that's my attitude. So that is the attitude with my own program that I have toward the missing persons community. You want more contributions for your nonprofits, you want more people involved, then the people who are already involved are going to have to show success. Um, Man, it's just you would think nowadays with all the technology we could do better, but like you said, there's so many avenues of missing adults. Definitely won't stop me from trying, and people like all of us. Yeah. Shaw, it's one of those things. I know you're very involved in Brandy Wells's disappearance. I think it's easy to say that if she disappeared, if her disappearance happened in 2018, 2019, 2020, that it, it would be a different situation. but not maybe because of the missing persons community, but because of technology. Those cameras in there might be a little clearer. There might be more of them. We know how much cameras have changed in the last 15 years from going to big to very small. It very well may be that she would have had some sort of smartphone. She might have taken a picture of herself with some guy and put it on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or something. So many things could have changed. The issue is that none of that would be associated with the missing persons community. And we have to change that. So, but so that's my answer. I think I have an idea about how your average person can get involved. I think I have a step-by-step process that has worked for me and my assistants on how to reach people, how to talk to them about the cases, to get information of them from them and use that information. I think. Okay? Um but I think the missing persons community as a whole has to just be more solutions oriented. I think that the reason it gets so caught up in all of these other things is because that's easy to do. It's the investigations and things that, as much as we talk about the police and being a private investigator, there is no law in this country that says one person can't talk to another. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the other person is going to want to talk, but we as at least citizens in the United States, we have the right to try to talk to somebody else. Nobody's can stop us from doing that. They can say, "Well, I want to talk to my lawyer." They can shove the door in our face. They can block us on Facebook and everything else. But we are certainly allowed to contact them. We have to start doing that. That's certainly right, Twinkle. What better thing can you do in the life can make it better world because you were there? Thank you, Ed. This has been very helpful. You're welcome. Um, let's move. Where are we? Wow, we're already in an hour. Wow, time is flying. Um, let me see here for a second. Let me see it. Let me see if I have any more questions that I need to answer. Um, what happened here? Just hold with me for a moment. Uno momento. I'm going to see if I have any more questions before um, I move on to a few other things. Okay. Oh, Lacey asked me. All right, let's talk about this. Lacey asked me. I'll read her question. I don't. I know you don't generally like to give your opinion on these types of things, but I recently learned about the serial killer named Israel Keys, and it was suggested in a few different places that he had something to do with Suzanne Lyle's disappearance. Do you think this could be a possibility, and have you ever seen his timeline of murders and travel? Lacey, if you are watching, or maybe you're going to watch this at a later time, I am familiar with the Israel Keys. I am not, however, familiar with his murder and his timeline. I know he's very unique. I know that he was hiding his tools of the trade in different places. He was in different places around the United States, and he would just fly in, kill somebody, and move out. And I know that many people on all sorts of different forums have tried to attach him to all sorts of different murders and disappearances. I've seen his name connected to Jennifer Kessie's case. I've seen his name connected to Tara Grinstead's case over the years. Lots of different things. Having said that, I don't believe he has anything to do with Suzanne Lyle's disappearance. I think that there is enough in that case, the strange behavior of her boyfriend, or maybe her ex-boyfriend, depending on who you ask, Richard Condon's father, his actions after she disappeared, claiming he was seeing her and he was making it all up. Um, just the whole overall feeling of the case. I do not think it lends itself to Suzanne Lau's disappearance. The other reason I say that is because what I think I know about Israel Keys is that he attacked his victims, abducted his victims, killed his victims uh, in places where he knew they were going to be for a while in their house or at work or something like that. Suzanne Lau was getting off a bus from work. So unless he knew that she was going to somehow that she was going to be getting off that bus at that particular time, at that particular night, that no other people were going to be getting off that bus and everything else, I don't see, if he didn't know any of that, I don't know how he pulls that off. And that sounds to me like more work than he put into all of his other murders that have been connected to him. I continue to believe that Suzanne was murdered by someone she knew, and I think that the best choices that who probably needs the fingers need to be pointed at are her boyfriend and or his father. So, and of course, that is what Mary Lau believes to this day, and she will tell anybody who asks. Okay, Sky Sky. Thanks. See you another time. All right, Sky Sky. Hello, Lacey. There you go. Thanks for watching tonight. That is my answer to your question. Those are the reasons. I think that I know a lot about Suzanne's disappearance. It's probably as I know her disappearance is probably as well as any I've ever covered on Unfound, simply because I knew a lot about her disappearance even before I started the program. But I just don't believe that he had anything to do with her disappearance for the reasons that I just stated. I do believe that she was murdered. I just don't know if it exactly falls into Israel Key's modus operandi. And I don't even know what his. And even if you told me that he can't be proven that he was, where is he from, Alaska? Even if somebody to tell me we can't prove he was in Alaska at the time of Suzanne Lau's disappearance, I don't think that that would change my opinion at all. I just don't think so. So, I think Lacey. I don't know where you saw that or anything. It's kind of feels to me like people who are just typing stuff to typing stuff and just throwing theories out there. To me, but like I said, we have to remember it's one time Israel Keys was seemingly attached to Tara Grinstead's murder. I guess we now know that's not true, being that other people have been charged with her disappearance and her murder, even though her remains have not been found yet. So there's that. He took his victims at random, was known to case out parking lots for extended periods of time. Lots of killers do that, including boyfriends and ex-boyfriends of missing women. So that's why I will always default to the men who knew women who disappeared and not random strangers. And like I said before, unless, once again, how did he know that she was going to be getting off that bus at that time alone? You know, that's you know, there's if we, as I always say, if we knew what happened, we could just go solve it right now. But there's nothing about Suzanne Lau's case that I know of that that he could be connected to. I think what I'm saying is, if you're going to try to connect him to Suzanne Lau's case, then I guess you might as well connect him to virtually any disappearance that happened in the United States when he couldn't be proven to be in Alaska. because a lot of people get disappear from parking lots. A lot of them are women. A lot of them happen at night. A lot of them probably happened when Israel Keys couldn't be proven to be in Alaska. I think that there are some murders out there that he committed that he's never been attached to. Yes. He was in Albany living there at the time. I would have to see that factually and you can send me any information you want at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com, Lacey. Once again, I know about Suzanne's case. I'm not as well known on Israel Keys, but I can tell you, in no conversation that I've ever had with Mary Lyle, and it's been many, along with the the state cops that have talked to her, along with children, students who are now working on Suzanne's case in New York regarding all this chasing down evidence and everything else. His name has not come up once. And these are people who have devoted much more time to Suzanne's disappearance than I have. So I don't know what to tell you. Let's move on. Yeah, I'm gonna have to be going because I'm feeling a little worn out after yesterday, and I did not sleep well last night. Let's just go to this Friday's case. We get back to missing persons cases this Friday, and it is the disappearance of Lisa Shuttleworth. Interesting last name. From Beach Island, South Carolina, on September 4th, 2003. By the way, Beach Island is not an island. It's called Beach Island, but it's in the middle of South Carolina. Go figure. The episode is going to be called Center of Attention. And the reason that is because Lisa was getting a lot of attention by a lot of different men at the time of her disappearance. Um, the guest for this episode is her son, Ryan, who was only 8 years old at the time of the disappearance. And I hope you will keep that in mind when you listen to the interview. I can tell you that Ryan was very nervous with in doing his interview. I think he never had he'd never done an interview regarding his mother before, so he was very nervous. We just had to take some timeouts once in a while, to be honest, but in the end we got it done. But you just have to remember that a lot of what he knows about the disappearance came from other people. The tough part that's going to be, as I've already mentioned, regarding Lisa Shuttleworth's case, it is very much like Marina Bolter's or Rebecca Gary's or Judith M. Key's or Nikki McCown's, in which they had multiple men in their lives who could have caused the disappearance, and it's hard to point at one or the other. With Lisa, she had a guy, an older gentleman, who had given her a car to drive. She had an ex-husband. She had an ex-boyfriend. She had a guy that she was dating who was married. And they all don't seem to have the best alibis, you could say. And it also could be, on top of that she might have been doing some sort of internet dating or something like that, trying to meet men that way. So it very well could be that her disappearance could have been caused by a guy who we don't even know about. But you are going to hear Ryan's memory from that day, because he was one of the last people to see his mother. She stopped him off at the bus stop. She went home, and then when he got home later that day, the house was locked. She was not there. She was never seen again. I also had an opportunity to talk to her ex-husband. Ryan arranged it. It's Ryan's father, and Ryan arranged it. The ex-husband and I had a very good conversation. I asked him some very pointed questions, and he even admits that he doesn't have the greatest alibi for that day. He claims that he was home sleeping. I will talk about that in my summation. Um, he talks about the kind of relationship that he and Lisa had. He will give his own opinions on what he thinks happened to her. And so it was good to get to talk to him, to get another point of view, I guess, from an adult, a person who was an adult at the time, who still probably to this day by police is considered to be probably a person of interest. JT, the ex-husband, did admit to me that he was told, he did take a polygraph test. He was told that he failed it. He saw no proof of that. It very well may be the police trying to just goad him into saying something, but he was told that he did not pass that. And I will, of course, detail that in my notes that I took from talking with him. So I tried to get as good a coverage I could get for the disappearance of Lisa, but it's going to be difficult, because I think it's going to determine your interpretation. It's very easy to think that the guy who was married might have wanted to make her disappear. But what about this guy who loaned her, the car? And the ex-boyfriend, you're going to hear about how his old trailer had like this very strange cellar in it. There's a lot to cover in this case, even though the episode is not going to be that long. I think it's going to be about an hour and a half. So that is the missing persons case. That is the missing person we will be featuring this Friday. Once again, Lisa Shuttleworth, September 4th, 2003, from Beach Island, South Carolina. It's an episode I'm calling Center of Attention because that's what she was. And the interview is with her son Ryan, who's 25. He was only 8 years old at the time. Raising the Reaps. Yes, I have covered Nikki McCown's case. I covered that case September 2017. Raising the Reaps. Yes. Yeah, I did. I interviewed her sister, whose name is Michelle. Raising the Reaps. Lacey says I will send you a podcast I've been listening to. It's been very enlightening. Lacey, you're more than welcome to do that. The problem is unless the people who are the most up on the disappearance, and that is the people who continue to work on it this day, mainly the students who've been devoting a couple years of their school careers working on it, unless they were involved with the latest, because they have the latest information, then I don't know what kind of coverage a podcast is going to be able to do. I have to say that if I were to cover, if I had not covered Suzanne's disappearance before and I was going to do it now, I would certainly be interested in talking to those people that have been working her case at the University of Albany the last couple years. Unfortunately, they started their work after I'd already done Suzanne Lyle's episode, which was the first episode Unfound ever did. So I'm not saying it wasn't enlightening, but I got to tell you, Lacey, and people who listen to the program know that I'm like this. That if it's just a podcast that's just throwing around theories, and just because he might have lived in Albany at the time, I don't know if that's a lot to go on. Sheree, please like the new videos. Yes. Let's talk about that, Sheree. Thank you for reminding me before I go. As I talked about last week, we have a new person. Her name is Natasha. She's going to be working on the website, maybe to the point of totally redoing it. We'll see. But she's also been working on posting new YouTube videos, something that I was doing that she is now doing, and that's fine by me. So there's a lot of new YouTube videos out, a lot of the newer cases, along with pictures and everything. And I hope you will check those out. you will notice that the Unfound channel on YouTube now has a new name. It is now the Unfound Podcast channel. And before, I think it was just Unfound or something like that. It is, once again, I wouldn't say it necessarily rebranding, but a retitling to make it more accurate of what's going on there. And so, Natasha, if you're seeing new videos pop up, she is doing that. She's doing a fine job with it. And the next step is I have to get her the new intro and outro music that she can add to the old episodes, because the old episodes going back to the beginning have copyrighted music on them, and because of that, the channel cannot be monetized. So that's something what we're going to be working on. But thank you, Cherie, for reminding me. Once again, the what you're watching on right now, the Unfound Podcast channel. We have a lot of new videos. I hope you will check them out. Natasha's putting some very good work into those, and her work needs to be recognized. But I'm going to go now. I had a lot to talk about, but a lot of other things on the agenda. But my voice is out, and as you can tell, I'm feeling a little haggard after that drive yesterday. But what we do, as you can see, I'm in Pennsylvania, flying back to Florida tomorrow. I hope everybody's 2020 is getting started well. Talked a little bit more about last Friday's episode, gave you a step-by-step way to get involved in starting your own investigation. Talked about Crystal Morrison, talked about Austin Peebo, talked about Dennis Bowman, answered some questions, and then finally previewed the episode for this Friday, The Disappearance of Lisa Shuttleworth. So thank you all for tuning in tonight. That's it. I'm going to go get something to eat and drink right now, and I hope you all have a nice night. I'll be flying back to Florida tomorrow. Good night, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.